All set, Eric?
Hold on one second. Should be good to go, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for 28 May 2025 to order. Please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll call of commission members, please.
Commissioner Fox?
I believe he's online.
Okay. Commissioner Harpy?
Here.
Commissioner Minor?
Here.
Commissioner Nafis?
Here.
Commissioner Pascarelli?
Here.
Chairman Sobieski?
Here.
Commissioner Woods? Commissioner Hoffman?
Here.
And Commissioner Wakama?
Here.
You're all set.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to appoint Commissioner Wakoma to versus Commissioner Woods. Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the agenda, Paul.
No changes?
Okay. Next, we're going to move into public participation. This is for items not on the agenda. I wish to speak on items not on the agenda. Oh, we need a microphone.
Why isn't it down? Oh, I'm sorry. I put it there to put it there and it's on.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks. Gail Draco, 21 Isabel Terrace. Since I have all the zoning.
Can you speak in the microphone, please?
Since I have the zoning experts in front of me, I'm assuming that you're keeping as much attention on House Bill 5002 as I am. And my question is, I don't know whether it's to be directed to you or to be directed to Paul or Eric. Exactly what is the specific, if it passes, what is going to be the specific impact on Newington? And my concern is that right now we're in the midst, the past couple of years, you know, this, we've had an awful lot of development of apartments, you know, 1,000 something more units coming in very rapidly. With the Hartford Hospital property, there's a potential. With the development of downtown, the redesign, there's potential for more. Now, what I'm really interested in, and I was listening to the debate or the discussion on the past couple of days about the fair share mandate in House Bill 5002. What the specific impact is on Newington. I saw three different estimates that Newington could be hit up to possibly 1,500 units required to meet the demands of this House bill. And the way that the fair share was, if you can give some impact onto how the fair share for each specific 169 towns was developed, because from what I'm understanding, there was really no consideration of local circumstances, land use, infrastructure, number of schools, you know, what the impacts. So I want to know how that was done and how Newington came up, what our numbers are, and how we would be expected to meet that. Also the parking mandates, you know, a developer being able to come in with a 200 unit apartment and not have to meet any parking requirements. They have that capability. And also the fact that now commercially zoned properties as of right could be developed into residential without a public hearing. Now, Newington has an awful lot of vacant, abandoned, underuse, let's say, commercial areas. We have some industrial parks. We've got the Berlin Turnpike. That's going to me, this could really significantly change. Well, I think it could change a lot of Connecticut, but particularly Newington, because we are, in my humble opinion, pretty close to full development this could significantly impact us. I want to know what your thoughts are, or if you know how it's going to impact us. The parking, the no parking requirements could be, cars along the street. We're going to have to make an awful lot of adjustments for that. And this isn't affordable housing. It's actually housing for people, which is needed for people with 0 to 30% average medium income. So that could impact the schools, that could impact the police, the social services, the human services. There's an awful lot, and I haven't seen anything come out from anyone in our town, a statement, except for the legislators who are voting on it, of how it could impact us. So if somebody could comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Paul?
Yep. So again, I just I think it was just recently moved out of the House into the Senate. So that's this bill, the 5002. I've been reading through it. There are some interesting aspects to it that I know the parking mandate can be concerning. We've had some questions here and there in town. We've had certain uses come in. It's a very hard thing to determine. That's why we do have those general minimums. But as far as what I read through the bill, the parking mandate, or I should say, the way it will work is that they would actually have to basically have a traffic engineer submit something to the commission that really does analyze what the parking requirements would be, an analysis of public parking nearby, private parking, and to go through that process. And if I read the bill correctly, we would only be able to permit it to require 110% of what that requirement says. Again, this is something that it's evolving. We'll see when it kind of gets to the end. The fair share is a question mark on how exactly it will be implemented. And I think what they did is they did try to put in some mechanisms that allows you to at least kind of appeal it, but it kind of puts it back into our lap of saying, if once they come up with these numbers and say, okay, towns, here's your number, then we would have to go back and say, okay, yes, well, this is our number. Here's how we're developed. Here's our density. Here's the fact that, we do have smaller lots here in town. It's not, we're not a town where we have McMansions everywhere. This is a town that has a lot of smaller lots. It has that type of missing middle that a lot of things are looking for and that the regulations are looking for. So Newington does, I think, provide a lot of housing opportunities. But yeah, if they go through with this and pass that, it would end up being back into our laps to say, okay, this is the number you gave. And then we would have to do an analysis to say, okay, this is the number you gave, but here are certain circumstances in this town, availability of land for development, basically commercial base, how much is compared to how much residential we have, and to try to create that comparison to say, okay, yes, but that commercial aspect of having missing middle housing on any commercial property as of right can be a little concerning in areas like the Berlin Turnpike. Would this mean that you have this very small lot that's right fronting the turnpike where you build a 3-family house? That doesn't really make sense for the way that's developed and for the quality of life and for how that development would go out, which is with the amount of traffic, the lack of pedestrian infrastructure. That's kind of concerning to have something right on the pike that is not, oriented off of it. That's, we have multifamily that's been approved that is kind of just off the pike. But yeah, those concerns about pedestrian connections, about walkability, about just the ability to live there. That is what I will have concern a little bit. Now that's growing in the future. That could be something that the town does look at. We do have other people who are coming in to look at other areas off the pike. As we know, the Kitts Lane that got approved through wetlands. They're looking at putting housing on that. It's not directly on the pike. It is a business Berlin Turnpike zone. So something like that could be impacted as well. It's something that I'll continue to be looking into because it is newer out as what they've actually approved as amendments to it. Because the core of this bill is pretty much when it went forward, it was a small paragraph. And now they're just, they're attaching amendments, approved a couple amendments to it. Some are longer. It does everything from a lot of housing implications for zoning, but it also does things for homeless. It does things for the state actually doing a pilot program for portable showers and facilities. So there's a lot in this bill that's been added to it. So it's something that we will continue to look at and see, okay, and analyze how this will impact us. Because unfortunately, sometimes the bills that come out have basically, okay, they pass it in June. July 1st, this is applicable. It doesn't give you that much time to react. So that's something that we do need to stay on top of.
All right, thank you, Paul. Yes, Ken. Come up, please.
Don't have to run.
Because you're talking about us complying to it, but not non-compliance could cause a severe penalty to the municipalities because you will be deprioritized in terms of many municipal aid packages, including steep grants. So this is we've got to keep on top of this. Thank you.
Go ahead, Rose, you're online.
Sorry.
I said Rose is online, yeah.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Lyons.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I want to thank Councilor DeDraco for bringing that question to the table. That's something that is being discussed on Facebook, and I think it's something that needs to be discussed at your table because it's going to make an important impact on this town. The other thing that I wanted to know about, and you maybe have discussed it in weeks past, but I haven't been watching, is the status of the cars on Maple Hill Avenue that are piled up on a private property, and also I'd like to know about Cooney Manufacturing, a plum pack, whatever they call it, what the status is there. Thank you very much.
Paul?
Yep, so I would assume by the cars on Maple Hill, we're talking about the Crydell case, likely. That one, again, it's currently in the process. We have filed the motion for contempt, and we should be heading to a hearing soon. And as far as the Keeney Manufacturing, there have been no updates to date. I know that they are looking at the property and looking what their options are. Again, the town did note that it did go up for sale, and then it was pulled from the market. They pulled it back just to kind of analyze what their future with the property is, especially with, again, the town center master plan will provide some information for that site, kind of looking at possibilities, but it won't go down to the level of drilling the detail of an actual like site plan. Because a site plan in itself, again, working with developers can be anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 when you go to do one of these site plans for your engineering costs. So it gets pretty costly to actually fully develop out a site.
Thank you. Anyone else online?
No one else online has their hand raised, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman.
Come on up, state your name and address for the record, please.
Mike Waugh, 57 Kits Lane. I was wondering if we could do something about the dumpster containment area at the Enterprise Rent-A-Car place. The fence is all broken, it's unsightly. Every time the wind blows, trash comes out of it. I've complained about it a couple times and nothing's been looked at. Also, the Citgo station on the turnpike. Not sure if they're not letting their customers use their bathrooms, but they're using behind the car wash. Myself, my neighbors' kids don't need to be seeing that. If they could put some type of screening over there, if that's where they want their customers to go to the bathroom, that's their business. That's all I have. Thank you.
Eric?
I've dealt with the Enterprise site a couple of different times on that, and they've cleaned it up when I've asked them to. Yes, the fence and the gate's a little rough shape. I've asked them to keep an eye on it, keep it closed.
Maybe you could look at that dumpster enclosure.
Sure.
All right,
Yep, look at it and refer to health as necessary.
okay, anybody else? Excuse me, anybody online?
Hold
Okay.
on, somebody does have their hand raised. Go ahead, state your name for the record, please. You wish to speak?
Yep.
Number ending in 802. You can speak if you wish.
I think they lowered their hand too, right? Must be having some technical issues on their side. Oh, yes. No.
On the talk, so.
Yep, number ending 802. Yeah, it seems like they're having some technical issues.
Okay. All right, maybe we can come back to them later next round.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to remarks by commissioners. Any remarks by any of the commissioners? Commissioner Harpy.
Just in reference to the council's comments about the fair share program, whatever the technical name is, have we addressed this? Are any concerns to the legislative body at this point, our reps? Mr. Turco, et cetera?
Yep. So again, this is newer to us. As I said, it just kind of passed. It just passed the House. And I just got a fact sheet on it probably a day or two ago. So again, I'm researching it, looking into it, and any concerns from a land use, I'll pretty much kick up to the town manager and say, okay, here's how I see some issues. And then he can kind of progress it from there.
Okay, and do we know which part of the legislature initiated this? Coming out of housing, or what department is initiating this legislation, or?
That I do not know off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I do not know off the top of my head. When I looked at the bill earlier, there was a litany of amendments. A lot of them did not pass, but there was a lot of amendments to this. So a lot of people tried to contribute to it. So.
Because is it true or not true that the town planning and zoning of any municipality or city has a certain level of independence no matter what the legislature says?
Yep. So the way I look at it, it's like classic federalism, where you have federal government enumerates powers to the state enumerates powers to the municipality. So ultimately, it's kind of flows downward. So if the state does create certain requirements, because the state basically through Chapter 124 said, here's how zoning works, and it gave those powers to the municipalities. And that's why it's over time has created these amendments. We've seen some in the past, like the accessory dwelling units, like the parking requirements. Those are ones where the state can pass legislation that does restrict the town's ability to either allow or deny something. And that's the key thing in that section 8-2 of Chapter 124. There's two sections of it where the zoning regulations shall and the zoning regulations shall not. So they've already, the whole process has been set up in a way that those powers were enumerated from the state down to the towns. And they do have an ability to change that under what we shall do and what we shall not do.
So has the legislature held any public hearings on this issue, at this point, or?
I do not know. I think they probably had something at the actual House before they had the bill or under the committee. But as far as that, I didn't get any, direct notification. This is when the public hearing date will be or that. Was none? Okay.
Today it's being debated as we speak, probably in the House. Part of this one, that door, no public discussion. And it's going to be voted on very soon. So we want to make the comment that is part of.
Yep, so I will dig in.
Everybody's free to comment to the legislator.
Turn your mic on. I'll say Commissioner Harpy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? Any other commissioners have any questions? Okay. All right, first public hearing.
So what I'll do is we have the one on it, but I will take the time to read it now. The first public hearing one was continued, but I will read the notice for the other two that are on tonight.
Okay.
So Newington Town Plan and Zoning Commission, notice of public hearing, May 28th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Notice is hereby given that the Newington Town Plan and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing in council chambers room 103 at Town Hall, 200 Garfield Street, Newington, Connecticut on Wednesday, May 28th, 2025 to consider the following petitions. Petition TPZ 25-8, special permit, section 3.17.8 for motor vehicle sales use, construction vehicles at 15 Holmes Road, AKA 15 to 19 Holmes Road in the I industrial zone. owner Stam LLC, applicant Bituminous Equipment LLC, contact Alicia Comer. Petition TPZ 25-10, special permit, section 3.17.8 for motor vehicle service use, vehicle calibration and aftermarket customization at 40 Commerce Court in the I industrial zone. Applicant Matt Penzaro, contact Bill Jodis, owner Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. This public hearing will be a Zoom webinar hybrid meeting. Information on how to attend will be posted on the town website at link follows. These petitions and related materials are available for public inspection at the Town Planner's Office, Town Hall Room 204, and through the published agenda at the Town Plan and Zoning Commission Agenda Center. Link follows. Persons who require an accommodation to participate in the public hearing should contact the town planner at 860-665-8578 or town planner at newingtonct.gov, not less than 24 hours before the public hearing. Submitted Eric Hinckley, Assistant Town Planner, and this was ran in the rare reminder for the regulations twice.
Thank you, Paul. You want to read the rules?
Okay, procedures for public hearings. The order of proceedings at public hearings shall be as follows. Convening by chairperson, reading the notice of the by the commission secretary or a commissioner designated by the chairperson to act in their stead. Presentation by the applicant, town planner report on the application.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
so
All right, first one is,
The first one is the,
this one here. 25.
Yep.
25, 24.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so, petition 25-24. This is a zoning regulation text amendment at section 6.9, alternative energy accessory structures, AES. So this is applicant Newington TPZ. I'm the contact, Paul Dixon. And so, again, the public hearing is still open on this item. Since the last meeting, what we've actually done is I've met with the fire marshal came at the last meeting and did provide kind of an overview for the commission. This gives you a little time between that meeting and this meeting. If you formulated any questions or have any concerns or have any recommendations, we're open to hear them. And I did get a little more information from the fire marshal. So in reviewing NFP 855, again, this is that for the fire code. This is, there's multiple codes that will apply to this, but this is one of the primary ones that does actually address BESS specifically, battery energy storage systems. So per that requirement, there's a threshold. So the threshold of when these kick in is 70 kilowatt hours. So 70 kilowatt hours, roughly when I was looking at it, that's about the size of a file cabinet. So that gives you a rough idea. Most like Tesla Powerwalls are kind of around that level. So we're talking like that would be a very small one that NFP 855 wouldn't apply to. Anything above 70 kilowatt hours, again, this is under, it does change depending on the battery size or the battery composition, but they're all very low thresholds compared to, what we're looking at here, anything under 1 megawatt. And most people would be looking to put in something around 700 or so kilowatt hours. So what you would be looking at is under those requirements that the emergency planning and training is required by NFP 855. That was a very specific item that I did want to make sure that was covered because of all the items in the regulations, again, decommissioning is required, commissioning plans are required before you even energize it. But as far as a public safety aspect of it, that emergency planning and training is, to me, one of the most important aspects to make sure our first responders know what's there, how to respond to it, and to make sure that there's the education and information available that you're not going in blind. It's not a situation where you don't know what the structure, if it does, the likelihood of fire is not it's not higher than other uses when you compare it. There's multiple different webinars that I've watched put on by American Planning Association where they pretty much compared these two. Okay, and while no fire is a good fire, it's about equivalent. They basically were saying, yes, 7 incidents occurred in this year. In the same thing, there were 7 incidents of grain silos exploding. So that's like that level of incidents. Not that they're comparable, but that's kind of the consideration of how often. Again, battery technology is getting better. So that was one of the things that I would say emergency planning and training shall be provided by the owner of the ESS or their authorized representative so that ESS facility operations, maintenance personnel, and emergency responders can effectively address foreseeable hazards associated with the on-site system. So that is required. One of the questions was asked about frequency of inspections. So the fire marshal, our fire marshal, DJ Zordan, did reach out to the state fire marshal. There's nothing in the code that would allow us to inspect more. So really what you're looking at is anywhere between a 1 to 3 year inspection cycle, depending on the type of use. Annual inspections are required. Again, these are like A1, A2. So A1 is like a theater, restaurants with more than 50 people, schools, residential board and care assisted living facilities, and grocery stores that have fireworks or things of that nature are every year inspections. 2 years inspections tend to be bowling alley, gymnasiums, libraries, hospital, jails, daycare, outpatient surgery. So that's 2 years. And then 3 years is like business offices, grocery stores, again, without fireworks, warehouses, indoor pools, warehouses, again, non-combustible items, and then repair shops, industrial. So on generally industrial, you are looking at a general industrial, maybe a 3 year time period between fire marshal inspections. And again, within the fire code, that's not something where the zoning regulations don't necessarily empower the fire marshal to do more inspections under their code. They are separate codes, distinct responsibilities. So that's kind of that back and forth of where typically the zoning regulations would not, empower someone who's not the zoning enforcement officer. They wouldn't empower the fire marshal to have zoning authority to do a fire marshal type of inspection. So you're looking at anywhere between a 1 and 3 year inspection cycle. So that's for the commission's information, because I know there was that question. And actually the fire chief met with the prospective applicant to kind of go over these systems. Eric was there as well to kind of have this conversation. Again, a lot of this through this process, one of the main part thing has been just educating, getting people understanding what these are and what either the risks, hazards, or what you just need to make sure you're prepared for. The main things, again, when I met with the fire chief, it was really about access issues. And again, I think that's a lot of part of the emergency operations plan. Main part of emergency operations, you have to be able to reach the structure. But that's something that's not specifically enumerated in this regulation, but it is something that, we do have a lot of requirements about where it's located. There would be more of a concern if this thing was like off in the woods somewhere and no one could really see it and get to it. That's tends to be a little rarer. That's more common in utility installations. What you'll see is most of these as far as an accessory, and this is just how I kind of see it playing out, that most of these as an accessory use to a business are going to be closer just because the loss and the requirements for running the electrical and connecting this thing, the further you get away from it, the higher it gets to, the higher the cost to install. So that's kind of why, applicants, the pre-applicant who came in wanted to try to get it as close as possible to the utility infrastructure. Other than that, there was a question about documentation for maintenance. That is something that a lot of, like Tesla, for example, has specific requirements on their system on how the maintenance is done. I have not been able to drill down all the way into those specific maintenance. That's typically, again, covered under the fire code, building code. That's the responsibility of the owner, and it's the responsibility of whatever reporting they do need to do. Again, I will never claim to be a fire safety expert or an expert on fire code, but it's just some understanding of that ends up underneath that code as far as inspections and all these commissioning, decommissioning. Again, you cannot energize these without a commissioning plan, and you need to have a decommissioning plan in place as well. Other than maintenance, again, there were some, there are specific site questions that will come up about, and this will be fire code related. What is it next to? What is the combustibility of any structure? The NFPA 855 actually allows these to be as close as 10 feet to a structure. But that's not something where, that's fire code. So that's been tested, negotiated, however that works with that when they're putting together the fire code. that, and this is under the 2020 NFPA, which was adopted by the state in 2022. So this is actually a more recent code to the state, but they would be looking at those items and kind of, again, that's that concern of what's next to it. Are there any chemicals, combustibles, and that will be looked through again through building and fire codes. So my question for the commission is, do you have any additional questions? Is there any more research that you would like me to do? I've kind of drilled down, I think, decently on this regulation. But again, I'm not the fire safety expert. That will be underneath fire code, building code, electrical code. We'll cover all those items. We're primarily talking about the siting on the site and just making sure that residential is protected, other commercial properties around are protected. Again, with that 50 feet from any property line, there's some who would look at 50 feet and say, nah, that's not that much. There's some who look at 50 feet and say, wow, that takes up a lot of my property. So that's a little bit subjective. And that's kind of zoning regulations, but that was something, again, talking with the fire chief about, that was kind of his recommendation too, that 50 feet seems reasonable. And I talked about the regulation just to make sure it's not right up against an adjoining property. And again, more protection for residential properties being 100 feet away, just because that's how we viewed, automotive. Newington has a long history of that 100 feet is where any of these type of uses that could cause an impact to residential areas. We're talking about potential noise. Again, that will be covered under the noise ordinance for the town, potential noise from these. And also if there was an incident, just to make sure it's not close to a residential property. Again, lithium ion batteries are, a hazardous material. And that was something in talking to the chief, that many thing is, the importance that not only that the fire department is trained on this, but also whatever hazmat response teams are in the area. We do have those organizations. And that's what, he would like to see as part of that. And again, they do have it for emergency response personnel. And I think that would be covered under that umbrella. So at this point, I would like to open it up if you have any questions for me. And we kind of go from there.
Commissioner Harpy.
Mr. Chairman, through you, with the Capital Region Council of Governments, do you have any benefit to reach out to for enabling language that you would like to see?
So I have not reached out to them yet. We did get the report back for them that there's no regional significance to this regulation. So, they didn't provide any recommendations as part of that. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do say, consider this, or this. But they just basically got back that no regional significance. If that's something that the commission wants me to look into, I can. The one issue I think is, again, this is newer to Connecticut municipalities. We do have one in town, over on Richard Street, kind of noted on the earlier part. It's I looked at the building plans, they were about 250 kilowatt hour. So it's a little smaller than some of the other ones. It's associated with a solar array, and those things kind of go hand in hand. That's how most municipalities kind of faced or had these in front of them. It was always kind of an accessory to something like a generator. This is something a little different. Again, most of the time in Connecticut, we've been, the siting council is responsible, the siting council, because most people till now have been putting in large systems that are over 1 megawatt and that are outside of our jurisdiction. We only have comment when it goes to the siting council. So this is really the first foray to, this is actually under our jurisdiction.
But is there some other enabling language that you would like to see at some point in time
So I think,
that can happen? Help us with, or?
yep, I can reach out to see if they had any. Again,
Well, I'm really trying to make this beneficial to us, the town,
Yes.
and you. You spend a lot of time on that and we appreciate it. But if there is some enabling language that you feel very strongly about, wouldn't see why we couldn't reach out to CROG unless you feel that's the wrong group to do it with.
yeah, I said up till now, the primary people, again, we've worked with Taichi Planning has reviewed some of this along with me as well. And also with our town attorney, we've reviewed these, kind of gone back and forth. I had him really like to say, okay, what is the enabling language as a whole? that was really when we were looking very specifically at bonding. That's kind of the outstanding issue, bonding, not bonding. You know, that's something we can't do in the zoning regulations. I think best regulations or energy regulations, they always continue to evolve.
Right.
I think the fact that the NFPA 855 was adopted in 2022, there were installations going on in California far before this. So a lot of that fire code was built out of lessons learned. It will continue to be built out of lessons learned. And that's where most regulations with fire building code are, as new technology emerges, it takes a few years to catch up as all on the regulations. I think that code cycle being brought in is beneficial to us, because again, if this showed up in 2021 with the code not in place, we wouldn't have the fire safety plan. We wouldn't have decommissioning, commissioning plans. We wouldn't have all these requirements that go with the to the fire marshal to review and to approve that permit. It would have been kind of that Wild West. Okay, these are brand new. What do we do with them? So now we have some codes in place, which is beneficial.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Nathas.
Thank you. I think you did a great job going into that and finding all this information. I was getting a little bit worried that we were, as a commission, wanting to look more into the operation of these things. That really has nothing to do with us. And I think you answered that question pretty well tonight, showing that all those concerns we would have are covered by the people who should be covering it. So I want to thank you for that. And I think it's about time we moved on with this.
If I can add, just at the meeting, Mr. Chairman, with the Chief Traumer and Assistant Chief LaPierre and Regina, with the company came in with their fire professional, and they had a very good discussion on training, future training, that they would train the fire department, work with them, get them those plans and everything, and review everything with them if it was approved.
They were good with this.
They were good with it. The chief seemed satisfied with the level of training that was going to be provided.
All right, thank you, Eric. I forgot, is Commissioner Minor on?
Commissioner Minor is on.
Okay, good. Any questions, Commissioner Minor? I know he was concerned with this.
Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, my only concern are back to the same issues that have been brought up before, which is public health and safety. Fire is less concerning to me personally than it is to the environmental impacts they may have if they do go awry. The question I've got for you, Paul, is there a way to differentiate? I know we're specifically talking to the best systems, but is there any way to specifically differentiate an owner-used system versus a land lease for commercial use? Is there any way to differentiate the two? What comes to mind as a parallel is, cell towers. We obviously have siting council, have determination, but along those same lines, is there a way to separate the two?
So typically zoning regulations are kind of agnostic on ownership. When it comes to actually like the operator, it's like, when you have a, well, here's a kind of concern like in the market right now. When you have we'll go to residential. When you have an apartment building and that apartment building is built and it's built under one owner of the property, and then it transfers to a REIT. That's something we don't have control over. So that's kind of like, in looking at that, is we typically haven't said, the only time I think zoning regulations typically would get into it, actually, no, I'm trying to think of too many things, trying to think of anything where we kind of look at owners. I think it's pretty much
The only thing like
agnostic.
for us would be some kind of specific, like affordable senior housing that has to be run by a nonprofit,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, and there are some, and that's actually, there is some, for example, an over 55 and over community. There's actually specific things, and actually I believe it was even, so it's under 8-2, when I was reading the House bill and looking at what it changed, there is specific even language in 8-2 that talks about, you can't actually talk about specific people who would be occupants only in the condition of a 55 and older or something like that community. So again, this is the enumerated powers of the municipality. So it's something I could look into, but I can say that I have not seen anything that typically says this needs to be owner operated, run by this specific person. Properties transfer and the reality of us actually tracking that and enforcing anything on that, it's not really easily feasible. So again, I don't believe that there is any specific enabling language that lets me say, okay, yes, no, you have to own this, you have to stay here, you can't sell it to a third party, or it can't be a ground lease. We have a lot of things that are ground leases in the town.
Yeah,
All
'cause
set with that, Commissioner Minor? I'm sorry.
yeah, that is something I would be interested to know if we can find an answer to that. And the other thing is that, do we have a way to allow these in commercial industrial settings, but not to be allowed in residential settings?
So right now, the way this regulation is written, it's only in the Business Berlin Turnpike, plan development, and industrial zones. So the regulation that's in front of you is only for those three zones, which typically contain our, commercial industrial. No other zones are proposed at this point. So one thing which is interesting, I think Bristol is also working on a regulation. I did put that in the staff report. It was just a link. I did reach out, but wasn't able to reach them, say, hey, it's okay to put your whole staff report in mine, but that's okay. You can take a look at that as well. They actually, if I remember correctly, were looking at the smaller units actually being allowed as of right in all zones. So that is something, even when I talked to our fire chief about, there was some concern about the residential, just as it hasn't been truly flushed out yet. And this is that kind of noted that NFPA 55 doesn't apply in these lithium ions if it's under 70 kilowatt hours. So that would be, again, a filing cabinet size, and that's what you'd see more on residential properties. So I think that's something that we will ultimately end up needing to address. We haven't had too many asks. I think we only had one when someone was kind of inquiring about, well, could these go on our property? So that's an unanswered question. And that is something that if the regulations don't provide for it, that might be something that the town wants to look into further, whether there's some other way, either through ordinance or not, whether this is something that we would be looking at in the community, or is the state going to catch up like New York did with their regulations, which do tier 1, 2, 3, and a lot of these other states actually even talk about stuff inside the house. Again, not zoning. These are ordinances. So they have a little more farther reach than zoning inside of a property. But that's the fire safety issues that they've kind of gone into for the smaller scale units. Again, I think it's something that we ultimately will need to tackle, because eventually in our energized future of everyone looking to have as much stability and as much ability to kind of either grid down events, to cut their electrical bills, and with more state subsidies for these type of systems, that's the biggest thing that actually pushes them. Right now, BESs are kind of like in a little bit of a holding pattern, I think, just because of the tariffs, the cost of the materials, and also the uncertainty in Washington right now about what actually tax credits and how it's going to go down the line, that we'll see how that plays out. Everyone's struggling with that now. Every single industry is kind of in that kind of holding pattern right now. But I think if the state does push for residential level, which they have for Powerwalls, I believe that is in one of the programs. Again, that's outside of zoning. It's in someone's garage. The codes have caught up good that now that actually you do have to actually have fire rating for the room it's in. You can't just put it on any typical garage wall without any fire rating, without anything, and just put it up like you would a couple of years ago. That we now have codes that actually apply to this extra for the fire rating and for some level of protection. But again, the codes are catching up.
Thank you, Paul. You all set, Commissioner Minor?
Yeah, for now. Thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any questions? All right,
So I would open it up to the public for any comment.
I'm sorry.
I would open it up to the public for any comments since it's
Yes.
still an open hearing.
Any comments from the public on this?
No one online has their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
All right, hearing none. What's the commissioner's pleasure? Commissioner Nafis?
I'd like to see it close the public hearing.
there a second?
Close second.
Motion made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
opposed? Okay, we're gonna close it, move it to all business. Thank you. All right, next petition for scheduling is 25-8. You wanna read that?
Sure.
Okay.
So this is B, petition TPZ 25-8 special permit, section 3.17.8 for a motor vehicle sales use, construction vehicles at 15 Holmes Road, AKA 15 through 19 Holmes Road in the I Industrial Zone, owner Stam LLC, applicant Bituminous Equipment LLC. Contact Alicia Comer.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Alicia Comer, 15 Holmes Road.
Robert Comer, 15 Homes.
So we're here again tonight in regards to the special permit application. We're looking to do the service, sale, and repair of specialized asphalt equipment. So our space is currently for a construction yard. So we're looking for that special permit because we are not doing any changes to the space. There'll be no changes to traffic, community. Nothing should be affected by this. So we're just looking for the signature of zoning for the DMV application.
Thank you. All set, Paul?
Yep, so kind of as noted at the last meeting, they provided kind of a good overview of the what they're proposing to do. The commission kind of considered the site plan and said, okay, yes, this is, and staff looks at it kind of the same way, that this is taking place in a very limited portion of the building and a limited portion behind it, not out towards the public way, not displaying any vehicles. And again, it's something that staff's main comment is, depending on, again, this site is pretty well covered with machinery. So it is a construction yard. So having construction equipment, vehicles in there kind of fits with what is in the site. So the only thing to kind of consider is how you would like to put on the record, what is that being approved? Just because of that future consideration of, again, if this was to turn into a large equipment sales, say something like HO Pen, is that a problem? Is that not? It hasn't really been reviewed as part of this application. So the only thing I'd recommend that if the commission wants to put anything on the record as far as what's approving, we have suggested motions tonight. It really only has one condition, just subject to the requirements of, that's, what is it, 6.11, which basically has all the requirements, which includes no vehicles in the front, in the yards or anything of that nature. That's the primary one that would apply to this. It's not within 100 feet of residential. It fits all those other boxes. So if the commission wants to add anything to it, you can. Other than that, staff does not see, an issue with this application as presented.
All right, thank you, Paul. Any commissioner questions, comments? Hearing none. Let's see if anybody wishing to speak in favor of this.
No one online has their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody wishing to speak against it?
No one online has their hand
Okay.
raised, Mr. Chairman.
What's the commission's pleasure?
Move it.
All right, Commissioner Hoffman, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, make a motion that we move this up to new business.
All right.
So motion to close and
Close, excuse me.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Okay, take this up
Thank
under
you.
new old business tonight. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next one is petition 25-10.
Petition TPZ 25-10, special permit, section 3.17.8 for a motor vehicle service use, vehicle calibration and aftermarket customization at 40 Commerce Court in the I Industrial Zone. Applicant Matt Pensiero, contact Bill Jodice, owner Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Application received 4/23/25, 65 days to open public hearing by 6/27/25.
I have it if you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Bill Jodas, President of PDS Engineering and Construction, and I reside at 32 Green Lane, South Windsor, Connecticut.
Matt Pincero, currently reside in Farmington, Connecticut, 169 Red Oak Hill.
William Murphy, 39 Pinnacle Road, Farmington, Connecticut.
So, okay, this came up good. So, yep, I'm representing Bill Murphy, Matt Pincero, and attention to detail for application for petition TBZ 2510 regarding 40 Commerce Court to request a special permit. Section 3.17.8 service, sale, repair, rental, or storage of motor vehicles in accordance with section 6.11 and section 5.2 and 5.3 of the zoning regulations effective July 31st, 2019. So I'm not going to go through the whole presentation I went through last time I was here, just be much shorter because the project meets all of planning and zoning requirements, wetland requirements, engineering department requirements. There's no changes to the site lighting or landscaping, and its property zone is I industrial. Attention to detail, performs computer analysis and calibration adjustments of auto safety systems. They don't do any auto body work, no mechanics work, engine repairs, or any other mechanics work. But because they do adjustments to vehicles, they require DMV repairs license. And so once we have your approval, this will allow us attention to detail to apply for their DMV repairs license. So because we meet all of the town requirements, we request your approval for the special permit.
Thank you. Paul?
Yep, so again, it was brought through at the last meeting. I think as far as staff goes, the use is very similar to the previous use in that, it was primarily vehicle related while there were no repairs. And again, it was a claim center, which morphed more into an office, but still had that aspect of vehicles being inspected. There's a lot of parking behind this site. It's fenced in, which works well for the applicant. And I think it works well overall in the zone just to make sure there isn't any issues because, cars sitting there, newer installed equipment, those could cause concerns. So I think this site is, pretty well suited for this use. Staff has provided potential conditions. There aren't many. Again, I think one of the main thing is the site plan does show like this future addition. And again, it's clear in the applicant's application that that's not proposed at this time. But again, staff recommended that just so it's clear on the record that approval is limited to the occupation of the existing building with minor modifications, including installation of overhead doors and removal of one canopy. Future modifications are not approved as part of this application. Simple. It's something we've had a discussion with about before, but just in case, because we've gone back on past approvals, less mystery is always good for whatever planner is sitting in the seat 20, 30 years from now, looking back and saying, okay, what was actually approved at this site? This is good to do to actually make it clear. And then the other one, again, the same approval is subject to the requirements of 6.11 of the Newington zoning regulations. Again, if anything in your deliberations, if you would like to add any other conditions, anything else to state specifically what the application is, please feel free to do so. Again, this is just providing a record for, again, 20, 30 years down the road, something happens, it turns over, and then, okay, what is this? What was it actually approved at? Again, because it is a special permit and it's been viewed for like the intensity of this current use and this general automotive use, which does work for this site.
Thank you, Paul. Commissioners, any questions?
Nope.
Commissioner Fox, Commissioner Minor, any questions?
Commissioner Minor has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Minor?
Thank you. Just one quick question for you. Any towing, storage, mechanical repairs requiring oil water separation systems running along that line?
We don't do any automotive. We don't do any mechanical repair. There'll be no disassembled cars on site. I mean, we're a bolt-on accessory company. A couple of the operations we do click the need for the repairs license. very specific things. Some of the interior work we do, and with our tech zone company, they consider computer calibration of cars to be an adjustment to the car. Not a lot of regulation. It's fairly new thing, but I want to be covered as it's written now. So, so in the future, we're still, within regulation.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Fox, you have any questions?
No questions. I think, I don't see any reason why we can't close this and, bring it over to old business.
It's a motion to close, move over to
So
old business.
Mr. Chairman, we just got a call for
I'm
public
sorry.
comment.
Go through the
Hold
rest
it.
of it.
Sorry. All right. Let's see, anybody wishing to speak in favor of this?
No one online has their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone wishing to speak against this?
And again, no one with their hand raised, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Now, Mr. Fox,
All right, now I'll move to, close it and move it to old business.
is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. We'll move this to old business vote on it tonight. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Next is approval of the minutes. We have a motion.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, move the second. Any discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now we're gonna move to new business, right, Paul?
No new business.
Okay, gonna move to old business. First petition is petition 25-8.
Petition TPZ 25-8, special permit, section 3.17.8 for a motor vehicle sales use construction vehicles at 15 Holmes Road, AKA 15 through 19 Holmes Road, in the I Industrial Zone, owner Stam LLC, applicant Bituminous Equipment LLC, contact Alicia Comer, application received 4/23/2025, 65 days to open public hearing by 6/27/2025. So I'll make the motion, motion to approve with the following conditions. Approval is subject to the requirements of section 6.11 of the Newington zoning regulations. Reasons for the approval, this application meets the requirements of the special permit.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Nathaniel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Congratulations. Next one is 25-10, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, so petition TPZ 25-10, special permit, section 3.17.8 for a motor vehicle service use, vehicle calibration and aftermarket customization at 40 Commerce Court in the I Industrial Zone. Applicant Matt Pensiero, contact Bill Jodis, owner, Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Application received 4/23/2025, 65 days to open public hearing by 6/27/2025. Motion to approve with the following conditions. Approval is limited to the occupation of the existing building with minor building modifications, including the installation of overhead doors and removal of one canopy. Future modifications are not approved as part of this application. 2, approval is subject to the requirements of section 6.11 of the Newington zoning regulations.
Right.
Reasons for the approval, this application meets the requirements of the special permit.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, congratulations. Thank you. Okay, next is petition 25-4.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
again, kind of breaking the order a little bit, but again, the public hearing is now closed. So no new information. I don't plan on submitting anything new. We have kind of like what we've gone through. So my question for the commission to for you to consider moving forward, again, you can vote on this tonight. You have 65 days after the close of the public hearing to make it, actually, sorry, this is the town's application. So again, you've gathered the information. So whether you feel you have enough information or you had enough to review it all or not, that is up to the commission. Again, it's closed, so it can be acted on, and that is the commission's pleasure, whether you choose to act on it tonight or not.
What's commission's pleasure?
So what if we have questions on it or something else? I mean, you go through the whole process again, correct? Yeah, okay, I just assume vote on it tonight.
Commissioner Minor has his hand raised.
Commissioner Minor,
Yeah, my only questions were the ones that I posed to Paul earlier. If you want to close it and act on it tonight, or if you can try to gather some information before our next meeting. The hearing is now closed, so now it's a matter of discussion and acting.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of discussion. Again, you can, there's a body of staff reports and information that's kind of been put out there. So again, that's the body of the record. So if you feel like you need to review the record, if you have questions regarding the record that we've kind of already gone over before, that's all fair game, I think. As far as that new information would be, a little concerned with not entering it into the public hearing. So again, this is, I would say, if you wanted to look at the body of information, you can definitely do that. And then if you have any questions or just where you would like to go with this.
let me ask you a question, Paul. At some point, let's say 4 or 5 months, something else comes out, we could reopen this and the regulation and modify it. Am I correct?
Yes, it would go through the normal process. So if something came up and said, okay, we need to change something, you'd be looking at anywhere from 35 to 45 days after that point of saying, Paul, we need a regulation. Okay, good. Boom, send it, whatever we need to change, however it takes to write that, to send it to CROG, because there's that 30-day mandatory review period for them to get back to us. So that's the only hitch in that, or not really much of a hitch, but just for time frame, that if we were to change anything, that yes, it would be in that, 2 months to get it kind of done.
Oh, Commissioner Harpy,
Just want to review the history on this. Do we have a pre-app or just conversation with people?
Yep, so there was a pre-app. Again, the commission's, what the commission provided for guidance for the applicant who chose not to follow through with the zoning regulation, and we decided to kind of work on the regulation. That was a, pre-apps, as we know, can't be held against the commission. It's for the information, but there was a pre-app for this. It had changed. Again, that pre-app was kind of specific towards the front. Once they wanted to put it best pretty much underneath the power lines in front of the property or in close proximity to it, closer to the utility pole. And that's kind of been changed per this current regulation. You would not be able to do that. You have to be behind the building. You have to be within the required yards, which actually means even if the building is set forward, you still have to go back to that front yard line. So say your building is 20 feet away and the front yard's 35, that best should not be any closer than 35 feet to the front. So we kind of built that in a little. There were questions asked of me by people who are reading. The thing is like, isn't that a little duplicative? It's like that was in there for the purpose, just to make sure that you don't have this non-conforming building and all of a sudden you end up with what you didn't intend to have a best close to the road and have those traffic concerns. So yes, there's a lot on this record. I think there's a few months worth of staff reports, and you have the information from the fire marshal from last time. I read in the information tonight, so I can put this up on, at least because I consider it part of the record, what I read in from the fire marshal tonight regarding that safety requirement as far as the training and those specific years of 1 to 3 years for inspections. So I'd say, yes, we have a body of evidence for it. That pre-app is not, it's out there as kind of information of what a best kind of looks like or an application, but it's not really as pertinent to this specific regulation.
So the entity or business that's requesting this is just gonna step down for a while, wait to see what we do, or?
That's what actually, so yeah, that's been the process right now. So as I said, I believe they came in August 2024.
It's been a while.
So yeah, that's when this kind of started and the discussion started back in August, and we've been kind of working through it and just pulling out whatever information was asked and trying to research as much as we can. So yeah, if you want to review all of the records and use that to base your decision on, that's something that's definitely within your purview.
Commissioner Fox has his hand raised.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Eric. So, Paul, through the chair. So because we had the pre-application and wanted to make, what we thought at any rate, the installation over at, Health Tracks, help to, kind of formalize our regulation. And, if we found something to change it, how long would we have to, make any changes?
Yeah, I think, again, the main thing is we can initiate changes at any time. It just would be 2 months before they happen. So it's just more of the lag in the actual working through the approval process, notice process.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any other questions, Commissioner questions?
I just think Paul spent an inordinate amount of good time on this, provided a lot of information. I think we'll just move on.
All right. And we're gonna make a motion to close and vote on this.
Yeah,
Already closed. Yep.
you closed the hearing, so.
All
you
right, I'm
can-
close hearing, we're gonna vote on it. All right, all in favor?
You gotta read in.
I'll read it.
Sorry.
It's okay. So let's see. TPZ 25-4, zoning regulation text amendment to add section 6.9, alternative energy accessory structures, AES, applicant Newington TPZ, contact Paul Dixon. Motion to approve. Motion to approve the zoning regulation text amendment to add section 6.9, alternative energy accessory structures with an effective date of June 11th, 2025. Reasons for the approval. The proposed amendment does not conflict with the Newington POCD.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Next.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Chris Minor had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Minor?
No, that's okay. Just real quick, Paul, in our last conversation, no other municipality had set forth anything. Is that still the case today?
As far as I know, no one has approved anything. As I noted in the last staff report, that Bristol is working on a regulation. And it is actually very similar to ours, except that they did allow, as of right, the smaller units potentially in every zoning district.
Okay, thank you.
Or that's what they're proposing at least. It still has to work through their process.
Right, thank you.
Okay, all set, Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
opposed? It passes. Okay, next is,
There's 25-5.
five, yeah.
So, petition TPZ 25-5, zoning regulation text amendment to section 6.1, street parking and loading regulations, add section 6.1.1L, electric vehicle parking requirements, and amend section 9.2, definitions to add a definition for electric vehicle charging station. Applicant Newington TPZ, contact Paul Dixon. Motion to approve the zoning regulation text amendment to section 6.1, street parking and loading regulations, add section 6.1.1L, electric vehicle parking requirements, and amend section 9.2, definitions to add a definition for electrical vehicle charging station with an effective date of June 11th, 2025. Reasons for the approval: the proposed amendment does not conflict with the Newington POCD and codifies the EV infrastructure requirements of Public Act 22-25.
And I would just say that, again, this has been remained tabled, just waiting for the AES regulation. The public hearing was held. There really was no public comment on it, and it's just been waiting to, again, update the regulations once.
Right. I'll second that. The motion been seconded.
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, petitions for scheduling, Paul.
Yep, so this is a special permit was just received. I think it wasn't that long ago, maybe
I've been last
week, that we're putting under review. It's for a motor vehicle use, sales and service at 115 Payne Road in the PD Plan Development Zone. Again, this is a special permit. So we'll have to schedule the public hearing for it, but it's currently under review and we'll have discussions with the owner before we bring it in front of the TPZ.
All right, thank you.
And we may do like we did with these other ones and have them come and present before the hearing actually opens.
I mean, a preliminary application, yeah.
Yeah, or
I-
just
I
as
think
part
that-
of it. So that's kind of the, because we're talking about scheduling, that's something that we did on this last go around with the two applicants that were here tonight, when there were kind of outstanding questions to make sure that by the time they got to the public hearing, that those questions or it was known what the concerns were, they could present one unified plan, answer the questions. So if that's something that the TPZ appreciates or would like to see that kind of going, we've kind of gone both ways of either going right into the public hearing or having the applicant come in before. I will say, again, with the AES one, for future, I will probably, when we work on another thing like that, it'll be a workshop, would be my plan in front of the commission, and then move it to public hearing and notice. But again, this is kind of for the commission's consideration of how you would really like the meetings to flow and whether it's beneficial for you to actually have the applicant in front of you for a meeting before and then call the public hearing at the next meeting.
Any commissioner comments? Commissioner Harpy?
Not specific to this, if I might, Mr. Chairman, to go back to what the council brought to us this evening is rather shocking to me without public hearings on it, fair share of whatever title appropriate. And it appears to me personally, this is a muscle play without really consulting with people like Paul on how this stuff is gonna matriculate. And I would urge the town council to get involved and push Mr. Turco and whoever else, the good senator and Kate, to find out what's going on here.
Yep.
That's all I have on it. Thank you.
Commissioner Minor has his hand
Yeah,
raised.
so before we go into more, because we were kind of discussing the petitions received for scheduling, if we want to move forward on the agenda. And then we have the remarks by commissioners after the next public participation, if we want to run that.
Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, I think that the process we just ran through with the pre-application, I think is beneficial to us before it has to go back and forth multiple times through a public hearing.
I kind of agree with Commissioner Minor. I'd like to have pre-apps, so if there's any questions, we'll be ready for them when they open up. Any other questions or comments? Okay, cool.
So next item, town planner report. So the main thing is the current land use applications. That's just up there, as we know, as an informational item. I do not have too many items to do. I know that the community has asked some questions about the vacancy rates, or I should say occupancy rates. I'm reaching out to those apartment buildings. I should have something hopefully by the next meeting that actually says kind of how it's going. It's been a question that's kind of asked, especially with the potential for new apartments. And it's something that I kind of mentioned before. There's been some interesting articles recently about REITs and how large apartment buildings and them transferring over. And that's that ownership question, that we don't really control ownership of property. And how that's heading in the current cycle of housing, building, and where we're going next. We don't know exactly where the economy will go. If anyone had that crystal ball, we wouldn't be here. It would be something that we would have that ability to, forecast, but you can't always forecast exactly what the market is going to do when it comes to the ownership and the structure. So that's kind of my concerns a little going forward. But I think that as far as for current land use applications, as I said, we have those up there. So the town planner update, sorry, kind of lost track. That's the one thing that is potentially coming up is to inform you, there was a DOT meeting with the town. So there was a previous public information session. I don't know if we talked about this last time about the sidewalk on Cedar Street. So there's a proposed DOT sidewalk going from Fenn all the way to Old Farms, Maple Hill. And the town manager discussed last night during his report that they're actually, the DOT kind of The public did come out, the residents of Vincent Drive and the surrounding, connected streets that are kind of an island out there on Cedar Street without much connection. So the DOT is looking at that opportunity to expand the sidewalk project to at least get to Vincent. So those people from Vincent can at least go towards Fenn or can connect to the system. Again, as far as a larger sidewalk project about sidewalk and true walkability along Cedar Street, that's something that is likely out to the 2029 timeframe. This is something that would have to go through likely some type of grant process. It gets expensive. And then again, the DOT, it is slightly atypical for them to be doing this sidewalk installation. It's something that there is a desire for at the state level. So that's why they're pursuing this and going to go through with this project. So the good thing is, like I say, that public information meeting definitely had plenty of value in that the residents in those areas were heard, and it's being looked at to see what we can do and trying to incorporate that into the project. Other than that, again, as I said, I will have some more information for you on the apartments as well. I can get it next meeting. If there's any questions for me, please ask.
Paul, quick question. I don't remember if there was a crosswalk at Old Farms and Maple or not. I don't know if there's a phase there. I do know there's a phase at
Dakota.
Yeah, Cedar Point. I know there's a crosswalk phase in there. The question I was wondering, or my question is, would they consider extending the sidewalk from Maple down to there in front of the old Atlantic Tool? Or would they have to redo the light to put a crosswalk phase in?
So you'd have to, without the local knowledge, the Atlantic Tool was which property?
Right across from Cedar Point.
It's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Beacon. Yeah, Beacon Industries. Okay, so they haven't really looked at that. I don't think that section was in it. Again, it's, I know that at Maple Hill, and Old Farms.
This is on the north side, right?
Yeah, on the north side, there are crosswalks there. And then also, so this is part of I think it's our lot zip, project, that we're moving forward, and it's kind of hopefully finishing up on the design phases, and the town engineer is working on that. That actually provides sidewalks all the way up Maple Hill and then goes up Alumni. So we'll have that, and there will be crosswalks at Maple Hill.
That's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
because you have the potential of putting a railroad station down there. And why would you have people go zigzag back and forth? So my thought would be, if the state's willing to put sidewalks from there down to the potential railroad station, might be advantageous for us to do that.
Yeah, I think right now, under the current funding that they have, that this addition does, they'll have to figure out the budget and make sure it fits in within it, that it was only budgeted so far. I think that's good to look towards that 2029 timeframe to say, okay, if we can get that sidewalk to Vincent, it gives them an out of that community to walk out and actually not be 100% car dependent just to leave their neighborhood. As far as the other connection, there isn't as much on that side right now. I could see, yes, if a future train station was developed there, that yes, that would be a definite area that you would want to add some connectivity on that side, especially if we're, looking at a future where there would be a sidewalk on Cedar Street all the way from Town Center to, that's the goal. At the end of the day, it's walkability from Town Center all the way to Fast Track to CCSU to connect everything, to give all that opportunity. I think that, yeah, the 2029 frame might be good to look at that, or when that kind of changes over in that area, if there is any change over in that area. That would be something to look at, especially if there were development plans. It kind of be looked at either whether it's a town project, state project, or is it working with a developer?
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Harpy.
With respect to that, I know the town manager had some concerns about who was going to be responsible for snow shoveling and all that. Has that gone any further?
So typically how it's been laid out, I believe, I don't want to quote him wrong on that one, but for the most part, when it comes to maintenance, you have, when it's in front of individual properties, the default is it's the property owner. when it's in these areas of, there's some areas in Cedar that are kind of that no man's land where it's actually state property or other property, it's over the bridges. That's something that does need to be worked out. I know there were questions specifically about like the bridges, how that gets cleared off. The DOT typically has cleared those off to just, again, remove that static load of snow sitting on top of the bridge. They like to get that off. But I think ultimately, yes, there would be some potential town responsibility in some of those stretches, but that will have to be worked out. It hasn't been, all those fine tuned details haven't been worked out from my knowledge.
Thank you.
What's that?
Can I leave that topic and bring up something else? Or you-
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Can I leave this topic and bring up something else?
No, we're working on this right now. Wait. Just so you know, the reason why the DOT does take the snow off the bridges is to reduce the dead weight. Okay,
No, I just know there's a bill been put up by Mr. Turco. I haven't seen the bill. I don't know if the council has, for a rail stop, not station, but stop, and how that would impact the sidewalks you're talking about. What the chair had brought up, bringing it on the Beacon side.
right.
I have no idea. I don't know who knows where that bill's at. But
All right.
anyway,
Commissioner Harvey, what else did you want to bring up now?
state properties, can you give us an update?
Properties?
They call them state properties, do I have that right? The one on the Berlin Turnpike, the restaurant?
Oh, Casadoro?
Yeah.
Okay. Casadoro, again, they came in for the pre-application last meeting. I've had discussions with their engineer. They are working to pull together kind of the past information, talking to previous property owners. And, you know, I think the main thing is that I've been working on was just making sure that they can document what was there. And they will be coming forward sometime in the relatively near future to the commission. Because again, they have to come to wetlands and they have to come to TPZ to actually build the parking lot.
And is there any timetable that you have in your mind? Would you like to see these things taken care of, especially the parking?
Yeah, I would like to see it taken care of. Ideally, again, it's based on the work of others, so it's hard to tell. If I had to swag it, I would say 2 months would be my, you know, conservative, maybe not estimate. You have to see, hopefully they can get this information together. Hopefully they'll be applying next month. So we can get it on the agenda and kind of moving forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
going
Commissioner Hoffman.
along with that, right now, are they still able to use that temporary parking lot?
So they have been.
Okay.
It is a violation of the TPZ regulations and it is a violation of the wetland regulations. Work in the buffer. And again, it does require a site plan. The safety concerns, again, they're here, they've come in front of you. They sent their, you know, mea culpa letter to the Conservation Commission, understanding that it was a safety issue for them. So we're kind of in that in between where, yes, they do need to come in. Right now, it's kind of one of those, they're using it at their own risk. Because again, there hasn't been engineering review. So they are, again, it's done by the property owner, used by the property owner. They know that they need to come into us, but they are, I would consider it using at their own risk.
Okay, so we've basically given them not a verbal okay, but we're not following up beyond that at this time.
So we have, the town engineer and I have been out to the property. We have verbally, again, it's a lot of verbal enforcement at this point. Depending on what they're doing on the site and how long they take to get in front of us. If we need to move to a true blue enforcement, again, it's one of those tough ones where we have a restaurant who is doing really well. And this isn't just a convenience issue. It was a safety issue as they presented it. So it's not just someone saying, I want this, I'm gonna do it, and thumbing their nose at us. There was a safety issue. They did what they did. If they're not in front of us and, you know, that's something where, yes, we would follow the zoning violation procedure. on this. And if that's something that the commission wants to direct us to do, we will do it. We have been working, again, it's hard to find the right word. I think the little bit of word is grace, but it's kind of like working with them. The intent is they know they're in violation. They know they shouldn't have done it, but they did it just because it was a safety issue, that they felt that the safety issue was more overriding than what they did on the site.
Okay, Commissioner Hoffman, thank you. Drug letters are in file, or in your packet rather.
Yep. If there's any questions on those, let me know. If you want me to research anything, if anything looks interesting, that's why the CROG letters are there, just so you can see the trends in the area, what's going on. And I'm always open to questions. I will get you more information if you want to know about it.
Second round of public participation. Eric, anybody online?
Yes, number ending in 802. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Rose Lyons. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm calling in from my flip phone because I was having trouble with my landline with this meeting, with the pool meeting and the town council last night. Is my voice coming through garbled, or does it sound like the normal?
It sounds a lot better.
It sounds like you.
Yeah, it sounds like you. Yes, we
Thank
were
you.
noticing that with the other.
Doesn't
So
sound
yes.
doesn't sound like that I've had dental surgery or anything else like that.
Nope.
You're good.
All right, you answered my question. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Anybody else online?
No one online that has their hand raised. Mr.
Anybody
Chair.
else here wishing to say anything? All right, hearing none, remarks by commissioners.
Mr. Tollard's making his way to the,
I'm sorry.
Bob's making his
Oh,
way.
I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
Bob Tallard, 32 Edmund Street. You guys are doing a good job. Thank you. Paul, you're very efficient. Eric, thank you. This information's complex. I take notes until my hand just about ready to fall off my wrist. I don't know which question to ask you first. I just have a few, but could somebody tell me the different definition, I'm sorry, of an I zone? I don't know what an I zone is. One thing that I probably should have come up before the first time participation, if I could mention this, you mentioned lithium batteries, Paul, that they're dangerous. And my nephew is he's an electrician, and he also seconds that motion. And I just think we should be careful before we start letting the public get access to these and putting them in their garages. We don't know that they're there. The way Tesla builds them, you can't put water on them. It just makes it worse. So I just think we should be really cautious when we move to the public on this. And it's not somebody just goes to the store and buys one, throws it in a garage, you don't know it. And next day your house is on fire. So I think we should definitely be more cautious about how we expand the lithium battery on public, for public people, or the public. Cavzadoro, yeah, I was kind of just a little bit outraged from the last time I was here about, I don't know, if I was trespassing and what was it? Didn't they do some environmental damage or something? I'd probably be fined and arrested or something, and nothing happens to these guys. So I think you should be a little tough on them. I'm sorry to say. I mean, they're a business and they are doing well. I drive by, the parking lot's pretty full. God bless them. Good for them. But nobody's above the law except for Donald Trump and Elon Musk. So, as I said, I live on Edmund Street, and it's a straight street, and there's only stop signs are quite a distance away, and pretty much some of the kids turn it into Connecticut Dragway. I don't know. I called and talked to Lieutenant Dean a while ago. I haven't heard anything back from him about maybe putting a sign up or a stop sign or a speed thing. My next door neighbor has a 2-year-old, and across the street they have a 3-year-old. And I'm just concerned for their safety as a resident of the town of Newington, kids speeding through the town with their cars and not realizing the potential consequences doing 40 miles an hour. And there's no posted limit the speed sign. Just wondering if you guys could post a sign, or it have to be the police department, the state, the town? You guys have to get together with the town council. I don't know how that's done, but I just wanted to present it to you guys. Because I think we probably need some more of these 25-mile-per-hour speed signs, or that thing that tells you what speed you're doing and you're doing above the speed limit or something like that. We should maybe consider that, because people are driving faster, and as we all know that. It goes without saying in town of Newington, but if we could just do something like that, especially on my street, Edmund Street, I'm just concerned about it. People are driving pretty crazy, and someone's gonna get killed. So, thank you for your time, gentlemen, ladies.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
I can add the I is the industrial zone. So.
Okay.
Yep.
And Bob, as far as any speeding issues, that has to go through the police department.
Okay.
You know,
I just wanted to throw it out there.
but the process normally is, at least when I was working for the department in the traffic unit, all town roads, or the town requests the STC to look at the roads to see what an appropriate speed limit is. And you can't just install a sign unless they get approval from the OSTCA now that says, yes, this is good for 25. And the reason why is there's a court case that was in, I think it was Stonington, where town did not get approval, put a 25-mile-an-hour sign up there. The individual got a ticket for speeding, and he proved that that was not a legal sign. So there is a process that the town has to follow. And Lieutenant Dean would know for sure if that's been approved.
That's what I talked to. Yeah, I haven't heard
Right.
something about 2 months. So I
I mean,
thought I'd
they're
come to you guys.
busy with a lot of stuff. I'm not, give him a couple days and give him another call. He's a great guy to work with. He's our partner when we have questions here. So.
I'm not doubting that. I just wanted to see if I could reach out to anybody else who could help me at my cost.
But that's the process in order to get a legal posted speed limit.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yep. And I can just add to that, as far as, larger traffic calming initiatives, those are, tend to be larger planning projects to look at, and it's actually more of an engineering project, but it's a planning and engineering project that looks at those. And most of the things that are actually in the toolbox do slow down speeds, but make life inconvenient for those who live there. So there are always pros and cons. And when things are changed, things like narrowing down roads, putting in specific one-way throats at entrances to streets. And really, it's something that when you're actually looking at a larger traffic calming, you have to look at the system as a whole and see where things are going in and out, how you can kind of modify that behavior. So simple traffic enforcement signs, yes, that's through that process. The other thing is a larger process where you basically have to go into a planning process through the town of looking at, here's traffic calming for the entire town, for all the neighborhoods, and that is a big project to do.
Thank you, Paul. Any other commissioner comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.